But let's focus straight in on Andy Farrell's team. Sum up your feelings now in the cold light of Monday morning.
As bad a performance as Ireland have had, probably under Farrell, because I think the first year, he was changing things around and trying to implement a new attacking system. And I know there's an excuse that we were cold, but I don't think that is an excuse. Normally, November is the best chance to beat those Southern Hemisphere teams. So, but Ireland's, when I think back to the performance, should we have seen it coming? I mean, there has been a lot more inconsistency than we were used to in the build up to Paris. The England defeat, there was a lot of errors in that. Limped over the line against Scotland, quite poor in that first test in South Africa. Very good in the first half against South Africa in the second test, but quite a poor second half. We found a way to win. And then, Friday night was just probably the worst performance we've had. Looked really unstructured, but not trying to be unstructured. A lot of handling errors, which obviously killed the flow. The game had no flow really, and that was always probably going to suit New Zealand more than us, because I think this New Zealand team are set up about a little bit like the French teams of old, where they can go from 0 to 90 and very quickly and hurt you, but don't need to be dictating play, controlling the tempo. And the game was a lot of obviously penalties, and it was very stop start. And the first half both teams took their shots at goal, which obviously takes away a little bit of momentum. But it was really Ireland's error count and lack of discipline which cost us. And then we lost the kicking battle. Got no change really out of contestables. And then when we did get territory, our set piece cracked and creaked, and we couldn't force pressure. So much for Andy Farrell to try and fix, really. And I know he'll get a reaction. But I do think, look, going into the game, I certainly thought it was a team for here and now. And Farrell does live in that world where it's here and now. And a win against the All Blacks and the benefit of that to confidence, to the coffers, probably beating the All Blacks means we're sitting here this morning thinking it's going to be a clean sweep for November, and what an achievement that is. We stay one in the world and all that stuff, all that really good stuff, to be fair, which is important to take into consideration. But now I'm thinking, when I saw that bench, in fairness, I didn't think Ireland would play as badly. I didn't see that coming at all, because normally when they go to Irish camp, they look way better than they do for the provinces. But I did think it was a squad set up where we had to be in the lead going into the last quarter. With the bench we had, I didn't think it was a bench that was going to give impact. And obviously we weren't in the lead. In actual fact, we got no impact from the bench. We're talking about, and I thought the 10-point lead, it probably could have been more in the end. I thought it could be more in the end. So now, where does it leave us? Now it leaves us, I think, scrambling a little bit, and the potential that we might go 2-2 or worst case scenario 1-3, obviously, in this November, and that would be a bit of a blow. But Farrell would probably get a reaction and would be a lot better. But it doesn't mean that we're kind of helping ourselves for the future, really, because I think this squad does need some fresh blood, and it's probably, to be fair, it's probably only going to be poor results or poor performances that get us there. So it'll be interesting how the rest of the November shapes up.
Well, you've identified loads of different specifics about this game, which we'll come back around to, because it is a tight window for turning around. They're playing again on Friday, and they don't have time to look at bigger picture issues, but we do. And you've identified a trend, as you see it, in their performances this year, up and down, and having to come up with responses because they've had a couple more downs along the way. What about that worries you, or where do you see the need for Ireland to maybe change now?
Look, I think, and again, Ty Byrne is a phenomenal rugby player, and has been a phenomenal rugby player, and has actually had some good performance from Munster. Is he now the type of six you need if you want to play a really dynamic kind of power game? Obviously he's incredible He's incredible at the breakdown defensively, and he can carry the ball. But is he that big six that's going to be knocking people over? Don't think so. Obviously when you lose Bealham, or when Bealham comes in, you lose a bit of a carrier in Tig. Ronan wasn't as explosive as he is when he's had a run of games. Both second rows, to be honest, were quiet. Like Joe, probably you need Joe McCarthy to be punching holes for you. He didn't at the weekend. He does for Leinster, and he has for Ireland in the past. So it's not writing him off, but he just didn't the other night. We squad wise, then I feel sorry for Farrell, because I genuinely don't think there's a load of players out there who put their hand up. And if he does pick someone left field, it's a Cormac Isachuku, who kind of comes in and maybe hasn't had 2 or 3 years of outstanding form, but Farrell is doing what he did with Mac Hansen, doing what he did with Gibson Park, where he kind of goes, I see this talent there. I see someone who can play international test rugby and be effective, and I'm putting them in. Because he'd have to be a miracle worker through that in the most obvious area of concern, which is props. Because Jack Boyle and Thomas Clarkson, who are next in line, if you go to the who are currently training with the squad, and I know they're in part of the training squad, but they're both talented, but they haven't got enough game time at senior level for their provinces. So I do feel sorry for them. I don't think that the talent pool is as rich as maybe we maybe thought it was. We're very reliant now on one province, and that's great when they're winning and they're having success. But if they're maybe finding areas of the game or things maybe that they're getting away with, which we'll talk about in a second, at provincial level, and it costs you at international level, then it becomes an issue. And by that I mean, it's been pretty clear that Leinster have been incredibly aggressive on the defensive ruck in the URC, and have been pushing, and haven't really been pinged Murray, to be honest. It's been working for them. It's been a great part of why the defense is so good. But on Friday night, we saw a lack of tolerance for that, and giving up cheap points, giving up cheap position, because it was obvious Nick Berry wasn't going to tolerate people on the wrong side, and the other I suppose infringements that we saw, and that's that when it happens in a test match and it hasn't happened, in your club game, that can obviously be fatal. So I look at the bench and I saw Henderson, I saw Peter, I saw Connor, I saw Keane, and I said my mindset was, we better be ahead. We better be ahead, because they don't have the game changers that others have, and that's not Farrell's fault. It's just where we are. But I do think if we're going to get back to number one in the world, or be a force for the next World Cup, unfortunately we need to find athletes who are in the peak of their powers, or will be peak of their powers over the next couple of years, that can keep us at the top of the game, because you can't keep relying on Cian Healy or Peter Manny or Conor Murray or Ian Henderson. They've been amazing, but the All Blacks lost the Whitelocks and the Bodie Retallicks and the Richie Mwangas after the World Cup, and still now look exciting. Now I don't think they're. This sounds stupid, but I don't think this All Blacks are a great side yet. I don't think they are by any manner of means, but they're on an upward curve, and they played a very smart game plan, and physically they bullied us. Really, I felt they bullied us. They play that. I think that kind of war, I think they call it, pattern, where they play a bit of zigzag and the wings come in. And okay, they didn't score from it, but you just felt Ireland were just soaking tackles. And the likes of Caleb Clark and Mark Talia, who actually had a bad game for him, he was always a handful. And Satiti, Savea. I think Sam Kane has done a phenomenal job of, he's not captain anymore, but he's obviously going to Japan after this November, but he's been a real kind of glue player there, defensively, and allowing Satiti in particular, concentrate on what he's good at. Damien McKenzie, what a game from him. He looked like it wasn't just the X factor, it wasn't the flair. He actually managed the game really well. And then from the Irish point of view, they'll say, fine margins. They'll dispute some of those penalties. They'll say because the handling errors we couldn't get into shape, and I don't disagree with that. They'll say like they targeted Will Jordan in the backfield with kicks, and none of them came off. Right, none of them came off. Now there's one there where Mac Hansen. It looks like he's going to take it, and if he takes it, it's probably a try. But it wasn't a try. And I thought they tried to target McKenzie in the backfield, but the kicks were just slightly too long, and he was always able to step that first kick chaser, and then get them kind of back on the front foot a little bit, where you need to kind of catch him man and ball. So there was, and Jordan, to be fair, Will Jordan's positioning is very suspect as a fullback, but so the plan was right. We just didn't benefit from it, because he got there and we knocked on some balls in the air, etc. So it was just listless really, and you could see Farrell's frustration. What concerns me a little bit was that he was maybe concerned during the week beforehand, and a bit briary from listening to what some of the press were saying. And did he sense that maybe they were undercooked or weren't ready? But what we saw was a very untypical Ireland performance, and there's only so much juice you can get out of the lemon, and maybe we've got the maximum out of this group, and maybe we haven't. Like I would trust his ability to get them back to a certain level on Friday night, but when they do play poorly like that, you have to start wondering, what's the next step in terms of selection and player development.